provide a meal for them. So he started evaluating what could be the cost benefits to children, for government investment into school feeding in the developed world. And what can be the rippling effect of Ghana's government or governments across Africa investing in school feeding and its benefits. And since 2007, when Ghana started its first Ghana school feeding program, through the support of the Netherlands government and other stakeholders, the records have been clear that when it comes to school feeding in Ghana, it is an important investment towards securing the future of this country. But the unfortunate situation we find ourselves in today is that there is still a huge gap for government school feeding program. I think currently it's just a little of about 36 to 40% of schools across Ghana that have access to school feeding. And most often, as an organization that works around nutrition for schools, the challenge we have realized when it comes to school feeding in Ghana, these are challenges that we believe that private sector can play a major role. Someone will ask, what are some of these challenges? One major challenge that most public schools in Ghana have for not having school feeding has to do with the way school feeding in Ghana has been politicized. School feeding today is seen as a reward for party faithfuls. School feeding today is not addressing most of the needs of schools that really are in vulnerable communities. So you have communities with schools that have huge needs. After assessment, you realize that the only way to support this school must be that the program is designed through a community concerted private sector approach. What I mean by that is that, yes, we recognize governments have a challenge in addressing the challenges of school feeding. However, private sector in Ghana is more than willing to support school feeding. However, because of the bottlenecks and the political nature by which school feeding is run, it becomes difficult for them. And so through our lunchbox school feeding, we've been working with most private sector to see how, through private sector partnerships, we can collaborate with the National School Feeding Program Secretariat to ensure that schools that don't have any access to school feeding, at least working together with the community, the PTA, the District Education Office, we can institute a school feeding program that is collaborative, that empowers the school children, that creates employment for some of the mothers. And I can't say proudly that since 2016, when we started our school feeding program, it's been very successful. we've had over 29 schools across 5 regions, totaling a population of more than 12,000 children going through our lunchbox school feeding program. Now, the next steps for private sector school feeding program. It is very, very important to recognize the importance of school feeding. And then the role of private sector in ensuring that school feeding is connected to food donations, because food donations from private sector can play a major important role in reducing the budget, the cost of budget for most. And I am very much particular about school feeding within basic schools. So we're talking from the nursery to about primary 6 and then GHS, because research has shown that it is at those formative years that nutrition plays a very important role in the concentration cognitive development of our children. And so I think it is very much important that together as stakeholders, we can work in connecting the excess food, first and foremost, clarifying and improving the policies that we have on food donation and food laws in Ghana, so that when these laws can now contribute to food banking in the country, where a lot of people can have access to excess food, most of this food can then be connected to school feeding, community schools, so that they can also have a means to sustainable nutrition. And I would always say that this is a collective responsibility. We need to be conscious about it as stakeholders. We need to understand that the issue, the double burden of excess food, food donation laws and policies in Ghana, school feeding in Ghana, must be a shared responsibility. I know for a typical middle class person will say that, well, at the end of the day, my kids, I can afford to send my children to private school. Yes, it is important. Private school helps. However, even within our private schools, we still have challenges when it comes to nutrition. On our media, we've had issues of children from private schools having to eat contaminated foods, don't have, and research has even proven to that as well. And so the issue of school feeding in Ghana cannot be limited to just government public schools. Private schools also have a role to play. Tom, it's very fascinating to tell you, I had the experience of visiting Canada. And during my trip to Canada, I was fortunate to visit basic schools, about 7 basic schools in more than 3 provinces. And of all the schools that I visited in Canada, the most fascinated places within the schools where I saw a lot of the children finding it easier to interact and as part of their studies really enjoy is their cafeteria, 1. 2, is their school kitchens. So their cafeteria, their school kitchen, and then they have a very good sanitation and washrooms. And We ran some cooking clinics with most of these children. And you realize that most of the children that participated in the cooking clinics, they are children who become more confident on talking about what they eat, on expressing about the health benefits of what food they are provided with in the school. And it builds some level of cognitive development and support for them, especially in the area of confidence building. I come back to Ghana, and then the question I ask myself, and it's clear to see, in 2025, 95% of public, private, whether even the private schools, don't have school kitchens. And we can do this research to confirm that. Most of even private schools within Accra, within other parts of the country, don't have school kitchens to even cook for the children. Neither do they have food storage. Neither do we have even cafeterias or canteens. And the most important part of it being washrooms. And it's very sad. And so for us at Food for All, these are some of the things that we are advocating for. There is no way in this 21st century, Ghana Education Service or even our relevant stakeholders should allow whether public or private school to operate without a school, without a canteen, without a school cafeteria, without washrooms. Because these are very important contributors to the food safety that we talk about. It's not the availability of excess food that compromises food safety. No. It is the basic handling facilities that create this challenge. And for us at Food for All Africa, because we believe it's a shared social responsibility, it bestows on us not just to make food accessible to vulnerable people, not just to advocate for the reduction of food loss and food waste in our society, but most importantly, to advocate for policy direction on food loss and food donation policies, one. Most importantly as well, to ensure that food, be it excess, be it of any form, must be handled in the right way. What are the right ways? It must be handled by food vendors. We need to have schools and institutions that have school kitchens. We can't say, oh, for the feeding of the children, we always cook in the open. No, we need to improve that. And it is a shared social responsibility that we use this platform to for all stakeholders to play an important role in ensuring, because our children are the future of Ghana. And if we believe that future of Ghana bestows on our children, then it is important to ensure the surroundings, the access to what goes into them can come from good environment. And that
Wonderful.
way, we are not just contribute to good nutrition to our children, to our future, but equally, they are always also working towards improving on our food culture, in ensuring that more and more of our local food is also inculcated into our food culture. And I believe this opportunity today is a good way to share more on the work we do at Food for All Africa at an important time and an important occasion as SARS for All Nations undertaking this project. Once again,
Wonderful.
I want to use this opportunity to thank all of you for giving us the platform to share more on what we do. And it's unfortunate I couldn't be in the studio, which I would have loved to. Yeah. But it's also for a good cause that even on the field, as we are implementing the 1 billion bill endowment program for beneficiaries across the Ashanti region, Eastern, Central, and then Greater Accra, they are able to support vulnerable people to have access to food. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elijah. I do hope that, the policy side, I would have wished for us to exchange some thoughts on it, because, that was a conversation we started that hasn't been finalized, But yeah, I hope that as you engage in this advocacy, particularly where, in the area where it has to do with inculcating our local food into the staples and the food culture, as you phrased it, that is very, very vital to me. I had in the interview I had earlier today with one of the fitness guys, speakers on the outline. Let me remember his name. We're talking about the importance of ensuring that whatever you put in your body is a decision that you've thought out properly. Kingsley, he re-emphasized, to the audience on the need to buy organic, eat organic, and eat things that, you've intentionally sourced. We'll be transiting to South Africa. But in the meantime, Elijah, thank you so much again for joining us on this mission critical occasion.
All right, Chris. Thank you and congratulations to the whole team.
Thanks. Thank you.
God bless.
Yeah.
Enjoy the week.
You as well. Hi, Precious. Wonderful.
Hi, Chris. Are you holding up?
We're almost at the touchline, so I'm excited, very excited.
Yeah, congratulations. Over 100 hours.
Yeah.
I was going to complain I'm tired, but then I had 7 hours sleep, so I shouldn't really complain.
How was your travel?
It was alright, it was good, but it feels even better to be back home.
Yeah.
It's almost 8 o'clock in South Africa, so I quickly had dinner, left the family, and just found some quiet place to come and have a chat with you.
Wonderful.
But it feels good to be home.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. All right. Please introduce yourself to our audience so they can understand why you are the only person that can address this topic for this particular occasion.
I don't know if I'm the only person, but maybe I put my hand up. I'm sure and there's a lot of people in the audience who resonate, and there are a lot of parents out there and who are also chasing their careers, who also, be able to share this story. So just to kick us off, my name is Precious Shute Tobrinke. I'm based in South Africa. I am, I've worn many hats. I'm trying not to describe myself based on my current job, but I've worn this in my career, accountant by profession. I'm also a mother, I'm also a parent, I'm also a wife, I'm also a sister. And really today, what I really want to talk about is I've been having a lot of reflection and really looking at the intersection of parenting, purpose, and leadership, and me nurturing others, my children, how I've seen that, how that really has become one of life's greatest catalysts for self-development. I honestly don't think I've done a lot of as much self-introspection, reflection as I've done in the last decade when I became a parent.
Wonderful.
So yeah, that's me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So picking it up from here and tying to our previous conversation, you shared a refreshing and candid story of your journey into becoming a parent, and you shared about your boy. And, I want to move it from there and hand you over the microphone again to help our audience understand, this awesome journey that you've been on, how it's shaping you, how it's helping you become more productive, even for your, for your family, and how they can learn from your experiences as well to those who are just about starting to create their family like myself, what we can learn from you, and those who are already in the game, how they can make it better.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
A lot has happened since the last time we met. So truly, I think I find that parenting has really been one of those great teachers. It has stretched me in ways no professional role ever could. It has taught me a lot. It has taught me patience. When things move slower than you planned, when little people and they're unmovable.
Recording in progress.
It has taught me when plans fall apart. It has taught me empathy when, words fall short. I always think of there's a time I found myself sitting in a shopping mall with a toddler having the biggest drum, and where you get to a point where what, I need to focus on this little person, sit down, there in the mall, and just like, okay, I'm here, I'm creating this safe space. How do I help you? Where you really find myself, normally you'd be like, oh my God, how does this look? People are going to be looking at me and I look like a crazy person. But at that point, you realize it's not about you. It's about creating a safe space. And once you create that safe space, help someone calm down. and isn't. So really just, that's not about you, it's about the other person. I've also learned over the years is that personal growth isn't something that happens outside life's responsibilities. It happens through them. I did share with you the last time how I had to, to reflect and say, I need to be in a position where, as a parent, I need to put my child. So I need to make sure that I'm in the right space for me to do that. And it was through those experiences where I really had to reflect, look at who I am and how I am guiding, as well as leading, my family. And what really that taught me was that parenting doesn't force your growth. Because as a parent and as a mother, we always think that there's that balance or that harmony you need to find, where in the early years, it's like professionally you are, you're focusing on the home, there's so much going on, and you think, I'm not growing, I'm not, everybody's moving, but I'm stuck in this. But when I reflect, you find that that experience actually accelerated my personal growth. And I've realized that what children actually do is they hold a mirror, they reflect who we are, not exactly who we think we are. And through going through the challenges that I've gone with my children, for example, and then there's some things where you realize like, but I do that, I'm like that, and realizing that there's certain, I don't want to call them childhood traumas, but there's certain things that we have not processed as a child that now, as you're processing them with your child, you're actually learning like, oh, you know what, I actually tend to, and I'll give an example. I remember when you see, I'm actually learned to do that. Usually I'm a very fast talker. But what I've actually learned was like, when I was taking my child through speech therapy, for example, and then they were explaining like his speech mechanism. And then my husband was like, that's what you do. I'm like, you're right, that's what I do. As he was learning to correct that, I was also learning because it's not something that I'd ever really stopped to think. This is something that I need to learn how to manage. Through managing his challenges, I got to manage my challenges. And they're also, to teach us to lead with integrity. And these are all, everything that I'm talking about, something that you can actually transfer into the workplace, as you're engaging with your team, because it's really all about engagement. So, for example, like children really help us lead with integrity because when they notice our actions, and they notice our actions and not necessarily our words. And when people don't align, they call out you on it. Like I tell my child, like if someone is talking to you, you need to, give them your attention, look at them. So when my daughter, when I'm talking, she comes and she grabs my phone and she puts it down and she says, Mama, you're talking. Me. I could, and when you are want to cut off, you realize that when you learn to be also present, did not apply your mind to it. Next time, next time when something similar and then you say something else like that, wait. This time you say this. This time you say this. So you really learn to be more intentional about how you respond, what you say. And you also, as you try to lead and to guide them, I tend to also realize, some of my own behaviors that are not necessarily aligned to the values that I'm trying to teach. So what really that also taught me is to live by my values, not just to say them, but to actually kids want to watch you know, change from, and I can't even think about switching on the that
Did you add anything else?
You need to more the right behavior, they were one being, and they
But is our own network strong?
hello.
Welcome back.
Hi Tom-Chris.
I'm here. Welcome back.
Apologies, my internet dropped and my backup did not kick in immediately.
No problem.
But yeah, I'm now on my backup and I see we are on full bars.
Okay. Yes, please go on.
Right here. So yes, I don't know where you last. What was the last thing you heard?
So I heard, teaching them allows you to live your value.
Oh, okay. So that's where I was like, yeah. Yeah. So I'm just saying, for me, I did say this earlier that I don't think I've reflected and introspected as much as I've done in the last 10 years because just parenting has forced me to constantly reflect. Like every question that my kids ask me, make me reconsider what I believe, how I communicate. It teaches, like I was saying, it teaches me to really simplify without diluting the truth, which is a skill that every leader needs, right? Like when you're going through challenging times, you need to communicate with a team without really diluting the truth or without making things seem, what they are. And then and through that process of reflection and interacting, I've really grown. And as I mentioned earlier, not just as a parent, but as a person, as a leader, as how I interact with my team. It's like I'm constantly relearning and unlearning some things and some misconceptions. And also, I think the one thing that is really, really so that I'm just learning to be curious again, to be curious about saying, like, ask why, because we don't ask why a lot, because, sometimes it's so annoying when you give an answer to them, like, but why? But why? But why do you have to go? Then you explain, like, but why? I just explain. But then, that process in itself, sometimes when you find yourself asking, but why do I do things the way I do? Why do we do things the way you do? Isn't there another way of doing things? So really, so parenting really has helped me grow through a lot of reflection. Which I can go on.
Yeah.
I know this is supposed to be an interview, so you're supposed to ask me some questions. But I really could go on.
I was assimilating your opening statement. But you're right. So,
I don't know if the team can hear me. I see all the mics are muted.
No, mine is supposed to be on, but it was muted. So
I can't see your video, so I don't know if it's just from my end or if everybody else cannot see.
The video on my face is from the camera, but this one is from my laptop. So the one they will be seeing is the one from the camera.
They were both off. Yeah.
So I'm gonna put this one off, unless you just want to be seen that I'm still there, but I'm here. I'm here. Don't worry.
It's like I want to see reaction. Like, am I talking to myself, or have I gone too much into my head?
No, no, you've not. I'm here. So let me put off the small one. That one is for the auxiliary, just in case anything goes wrong. Then we use that auxiliary. But the main one is the one with the clocks. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you for establishing that opening statement. The biggest lesson you will learn is how to grow another human being. I think if human beings are the most important thing on the planet, then it seems natural that raising another human being will be your window into your true identity and unlocking wisdom, for the next phase. So I'm curious to hear more of the dots that you're connecting now, some new strategies that you're using to, fine-tune your parenting skills, and also some of the lessons, that you are reinterpreting. You did mention that you've done extensive self-reflection. So I just want to hear all the stories.
So I was such, I think they call them A-type, a perfectionist. If, that person that's on the presentation, everything is correct, but then the comma is in the wrong place. And then you're like, oh my God, this is such a mess. We didn't, it's such a mess. How are we going to do it? But what I've learned is that, through parenting, is that children don't need us to be perfect parents. They need us to be present. They need us to show that we're human. They need us to show that we also fail, because it then allows them to say it's okay, for them to see us fail, and importantly for them to see us rise again from failure. And really that translates to in the workplace as well, quite beautifully, because it's important for us to see our leaders as humans, not as flawless, as people will always get it together. And because if you see it that way, then you're afraid to make mistakes. And what you really admire, I saw your posts about my former boss, Carl, ago. One thing that he always said to me was that if you're not making mistakes, that means you're not trying. Because if you're trying, you're bound to make mistakes. And just that, recognizing that it's okay for you. It's human. And for someone to, and this applies both at home and in the workplace, like you make mistakes. And the way we make mistakes is also how we keep learning. It's such an important lesson. And then I think both being a parent and being, in the workplace requires us to have a vision. I've already talked about values earlier.
Yes.
It also reminds us that you can guide without necessarily having control, right?
Right.
You can create spaces for others to grow into their potential. You can, but even within that, it means that you offer boundaries, that you allow them to discover without obviously, getting too burnt out and not being able to work. But it's a place where you learn to guide. Parenting has taught me to surrender control. But me surrendering my control does not necessarily mean I'm not committed. Because plans change, people grow, and we have to adapt. And I remember a time when I could provide I could provide everything, all the comforts for my child. This problem happens, this is how I deal with this. This happens, this is, this is what I do, and that'll be fine. But then as they start to grow and start to become their own person with their own ideas, you quickly realize that I can't control how they feel. I can't control everything in their lives, what they want. And I remember this well. I remember just thinking about it, like, at a certain point, this person would eat anything in front of them. Then, now, no, they do not want to eat the same thing that I used to feed them, but now because they've discovered their own taste, what they enjoy, because now they're just not eating to survive, but they're actually they've grown, and it's a difficult adjustment. I won't lie and say, because it's only through the friction of fighting it when you realize, like, what am I doing? This person is no longer, they're not an extension of myself anymore, but they're their own person. But the best thing that I can do within that space is to provide them with the boundaries and the frameworks and the support and the space for them to grow into themselves, to find their space in the world, and just the tools for them to navigate life. That's the best I can do. I cannot control anything else other than provide them with the best possible environment for them to grow. And it's the same for a team, right? If it's in the workplace, that's the best you can do. Provide them with the tools, the service, the space for them to grow, obviously within certain boundaries.
Okay.
Yeah, so lessons. They haven't lessons.
So
you proceed?
Yeah. So the thoughts about surrendering control, I need you to expand on that a little bit, because it can be can be a bit uncomfortable to surrender control for your children, because at some point in my thinking, they need to be taught how to think, how to see the world, how to choose. And so if you don't provide such control, if you don't provide such control, for lack of or want of a better word, it becomes difficult for them to understand your value. But
that's what I said, Tom.
Yeah.
it's, you don't surrender commitment. Right? But you also realize I can help shape how the environment that you grow up in. But I cannot, and for example, I always say one of the things that we teach the kids is, you get into a fight or another boy comes or another girl comes and takes your toy, right? What's within your control there? The minute, if you then go and you punch that child, you get into trouble. You face the consequence of that. How you have control over how you react, right? You didn't necessarily have control over another child coming to take your toy. You didn't have control over that. So that's what I mean when I talk about sometimes you need to realize what is it that you can shape, how you can shape an outcome. You necessarily do not have control over how that outcome, how things, the final conclusion, but you can shape. So you can shape that final outcome because there are other factors that you have no control over. So it's realizing that the fact that, and even when I talk about this, I find it fascinating. I've got two kids raised same values, same household, but the way they react to certain situations is different. But that the best I can do, like I mentioned, is to provide them with the tools that they need, to provide them with the space, with the values. But how there's certain things that I can't control how they feel, the anger they feel when another child comes in and grabs the toy. As a parent, I can't control that. I've taught them do not hit, but sometimes they do. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's realizing that, you know what, that outcome, I had no control over it. So me beating myself up, all I can do, and later on, I think one of the things that I actually wanted to also mention is you realize that parenting is a long game.
Right.
You need to, yes, it's a long game, and it teaches you that delayed gratification, because there's all these things that, because as you go through, especially with children, constantly, you're always like, but I've told you over and over again, what happened? But we talk about this, and they tell me exactly what I've said to them. And you realize, and then as you're going through the moment, you're thinking like, oh my God, how am I, like, what's, sometimes you don't say it, but you think in your head, like, what's wrong with you? And then a few months later, you find, or something happens, which then makes you realize, like, those lessons, that routine. I'll give you an example. One of the things I mentioned about screen time and watching TV. Now in my home, my kids only watch TV between 5 and 6. Right? And that's in the evening. In the beginning, it was a constant fight and explaining why. But then there's that consistency that comes in and that routine that comes in. And I'm sure when you start, going into creating a family, if you read a lot of books, they'll talk about the importance of routine, the importance of consistency, and how that, help build those values. It's the same way, when you realize, like, you know what, right now, I told you to stop doing it, but I have to tell you 20 times. Just because you didn't stop it once doesn't mean. So when I talk about surrendering that control, it's also surrendering the fact, you know what, it's going to take a long time, but I'm building and providing them with the tools. They will not get it today, but they'll get it later. Now, I was, when I talked about the TV space, the TV screen time, there was a time about a few months ago, the kid's nanny had a bereavement and she had to travel. So my nephew came to help with the kids. It was sudden, so he came to help with the kids. I went to work and I came back early. And then when I came back early, the kids had taken it up. They've eaten. Now they're watching TV. So I was like, oh, you managed to see the nanny before she left and she told you what needs to be done. I actually came early to make sure this happened. Then it's like, no, they told me it's 4:30. We need to go and bath. After we've bathed, we'll then watch TV and then we can eat. We watch TV from 5 to 6. And I was like, are you kidding me? My children, they told you this. Because when it's me, when I say it's time to go take a bath, it's like, yeah, but I just want to. But then I realized that routine and that we've been, those behaviors that we've been shaping in them, they've actually taken root.
Yeah.
So when I say it's a long game, so you need to understand what, when you surrender, when I say surrender control, remember I also said within the boundaries, there needs to be boundaries, a framework, where they can work with, and within that boundary, there's the freedom to choose certain things. Obviously, I'm not saying, can't punch, do whatever you want. No, but you need to provide the boundaries, and they will learn these are the boundaries, and this is what you can do. And in society, it's just like they go in society. Within society, these are the boundaries. These are the rules of the game. I can't do these things. It's not that someone is controlling you, but now we have learned that in the workplace, these are the boundaries. These are the frameworks. But within those boundaries, this is what I can do.
Right.
I hope that answer that gives you comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does. Thanks for clarifying.
So I was still talking about some of the lessons.
Yes.
So some of the lessons that I've learned really is around the importance of listening, the importance of, just taking a pause to understand, rather than to react. And when I say this, you find that, especially if you've got more than one child, it's like you're always a referee. Because sometimes the child comes like, this happened. And then if you react, then as you get deeper into the story, you're like, wait a minute. Maybe there's something more here that's happening. So just learning to pause and understand, asking the right questions. And this is also something as within the workplace, before, just because you get something at value, just don't take it. You need to ask the right questions before you make a decision. You need to get as much information as you can before you make a decision. And what I'm finding is like the parallels that you can apply within the home and within the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand what are the principles that I'm dealing with here. How does this influence this? You need to learn when to, and this is also into that control, when you step in and when to let go. Because you find sometimes as a parent, you see your child struggling. Instinctively, you want to jump in and help them. But you need to learn to know, like, if I just do that, how are they going to learn? How are they going to use their imagination? How are they going to learn to problem solve if I'm constantly problem solving for them? So even within the workplace, if you've got a team, you need to let them, you need to know when to step in and when to let them try and figure it out for themselves. When to then say, you know what, okay, this is, sometimes you have the answer, but you need them to find a way that answer by themselves. And within that process, you also learn, and then you realize like, oh, the way we found the same answer, but the way they went about it, it was maybe richer than what I probably would have. Maybe it was faster, and you learn new things. So it's very important to learn when to step in and when to let go and just give them that room to navigate for themselves.
Wonderful.
And
Okay.
I can go on. I'll just think.
What else do you have in your No, I was saying.
Sorry, go on.
What else do you have in your toolkit?
No, as we're just talking, and as I was talking about, you need our children help you find ways. I was just thinking about a certain incident that happened a few years ago, and my kids were like, I think 2021. 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So they were 5. My oldest was 5, and this was like during COVID. They went home to Botswana, and then when they were coming back, I went to pick them up. I think there was now, I went to pick them with their grandparents, and then I went to pick them up. But because I think we just had another round of another, during those times there was another strain. I'd done all the tests so that I could cross the border. But when I got to the border, I had an issue with one of the border officials. He wouldn't allow me to bring the kids back. And I obtained all the right paperwork. Even everybody around there, because he was like the top guy there. Everybody was just like, sorry, I mean, he's the top guy, so we really can't help you. They even advised me to go to the next border, which we then did. I think we managed to call the embassy, and then they assisted us. And then so I got to the other border, and then I picked up the kids. But I was so angry, and I was just going on and on and on about it. And then, what my child said? Mama, most important thing is that we are together.
Mm-hmm.
You came to get us, and we're going home together. And I'm just like, that's a lesson there. Because I was forgetting the important thing. Mm-hmm. I came there to pick up the kids and get them home. I'd managed to do that, but from the minute I picked them up, for the next 20 or so minutes, I was just going on and on, being stuck in this negative loop. And it took I think it was 4 or 5 year old to get me out of that loop, reminding me that, you know what, you achieved what you came here to do. Look at the bigger picture. Don't just focus on the importance. Also focus on the fact that we are together and we're going home. And you achieved what you meant to do. And we're happy. This is a happy moment. We're reconnecting. I had no control over how the official reacted at that time, but I had control over how I reacted and really be happy I was with my children again. I just thought of it like, it's really just the simple, honest observation that a child made, and he really didn't understand, like, why are you still going on about it? It's done, it's over. But, so like the little nuggets that come from little people.
Impressive. Okay.
And I think the other thing, I mentioned this when you asked me about control, because I'm just thinking from a growth and what is being defined as success, where you realize that progress, and like in the impact space, you're also in the impact space. One thing that being in the development space reminds you is that progress happens quietly. It's not when you get to a point where you get to see it, it's been small little steps and consistency that has been happening in the, I mean, just look at this, that you have managed today, the work that has gone into it. And it's the same as parenting. You only get to see how your child turns out and the values that you instill in them when they're probably older. They're navigating life on their own. They're having to make decisions. They're having to choose what's ethical and unethical. And that all happens slowly, quietly. And it also, how it shows up is in how you respond to situations. It shows up how you engage with others, how to respond to situations. And just today, we were talking with my husband to say, these kids have grown. There was an incident with brother and sister were fighting this morning, and then, yes, there was like 10 minutes of just intense fighting, and then they managed to calm themselves down and then apologize. And then you're like, what's going on here? Sometimes the parents be like, what's going on behind? Are they acting because they know I'm watching? Because you also can't believe, because then you're saying like, oh, they're growing, they're learning. And then you realize, you start thinking, when did this happen? Because it's not like you saw it, but now you experience that growth. And that's what happens with progress as well. You get to experience it. And even like, when you're building inclusive systems, sustainable change is something that happens. And it's a reminder for me. I always, make those parallel when I'm at work and as well as in my personal life at home as well. Just to say like, oh, okay. And through that, you realize, the personal and the professional are complementary. Mm-hmm. Because I also apply, because if you think about it, within the development inclusive space, we always talk about impact. It takes, you need to monitor. You need to do monitor and evaluation. You need to make sure that 12 months after the program, we're still what we learned. We still need to keep monitoring to ensure that there was that stickiness, because we recognize that change takes time. Mm. Which then, when I'm at home, it's like, change takes time. When I teach you a lesson and tomorrow it seems like we have forgotten it, it's because change takes time. Changing behavior takes time. Whether you're trying to change behavior of your own behavior. I mean, they do say that you need to do something consistently. The days keep changing. I think it used to be 21 days for you to actually see the change in behavior. That tells you it takes time. It's not just you decide, it happens. But sometimes get that, because I says you should have done that. It takes time, and we need to be patient.
Amazing. Okay, so let's raise it a bit higher. Now, many parents have said one of the best times they had with, or they spent, one of the best times they spent with their children is when they are young, like babies. They begin to grow, and then they begin to, well, not like a default outcome, but many parents say one of the best times they have with the kids is when they were still young. So are you, and some like to plan up to when they grow, but you've already said you're conditioning the environment without exerting control. So looking forward to when you get to the point of hands off in the future, what do you think as you guide them towards this future that you are preparing them for?
So I always think back to myself and think 16-year-old me being told, don't do this. If I really wanted to do it, did that change anything? Probably not. But what influenced how far I would go was the values that had been instilled in me as I was growing up.
Right.
What I knew, the boundaries, I knew how much I could push the boundaries enough for me to be able to bounce back and not to fully break them. So I always think about that to say, so what are those boundaries that I create? What are those frameworks that I'm providing the children? Because to be honest, like your parents might tell you do not drink.
Yeah.
You know what you're gonna do? If you really want to drink, you go and drink with your friend. You take mouthwash, you get back home. And I'll be none the wiser, right?
Yeah.
But what you then know is if I go and do certain things, my mother is going to kill me. Those are the boundaries.
Yes.
That you would have. So all I can do, and that's where that appreciation of I cannot control every movement that you make. I cannot do that. But what I can do is create teaching moments. When I found out that maybe you've gone astray, how do I turn that into a teaching moment?
Which brings the question.
Right.
Which brings the question, how much pain are you willing to allow? Because, you know, the teaching moment, a lesson is repeated until it's learned. And then sometimes pain is the best teacher. So for this human being that you love more than life, how much pain are you willing to allow for? And again, you want to be the one in control of that pain, because if you don't apply it well, then life will be the one administering the pain. So how much painful do you make those lessons so that it can be learned properly?
I don't like the word pain, but I like the word consequences. Right. There's a consequence to everything. And I think my role is really not to, as a parent or as a leader, as I'm guiding, is not to impose perfection. Right. But to cultivate confidence, to cultivate spaces that are safe, like psychologically safe environment.
Yeah.
If you remember places, to create a place that values progress over perfection, for example. If you remember earlier, I talked about resisting the urge to jump in. Before, where you can see they need to decide. Like sometimes you can see they're struggling.
Yeah.
I can take that bottle and open it quickly, but you let them. Yeah. Some of the impatience of like I'm late, but you just like, okay, let me. Sometimes like don't jump because you're going to do that. Then you see like, she's going to jump, but I can see if she jumps from this point of view, she's not going to break something serious. So let her jump and get hurt. Let's see what happens. It's about creating that environment. It doesn't mean that I don't, but it's like I want them to learn for themselves, because someone can tell you about something, but until you experience it yourself, they will never fully appreciate and understand it.
Right.
But you want to create a space where you say, when you make that mistake, yes, I've told you do not do that. But when you make that mistake, there are consequences.
there's going to be a reason. Like if you do something, there's going to be a consequence. The same way you do something, there can be positive consequences or there are negative consequences. Whatever you do, I'll give an example of what happened this morning. Kids are going trick or treating. My kids have got these floor glasses. My son takes my daughter's bracelet. And my daughter's was not even working, right? So his was working, and because my daughter's didn't have the battery to power the lights going on and off. And I don't know, they got into a fight, he breaks it. So what do you do? It's okay, you've got glasses, you broke hairs, now you're going to keep the broken ones. They're like, but it's not fair, hairs were not working. I was like, it's not about them not working, it's about respecting other people's property. You did not respect your property. Whether or not it was broken or not, you did not respect your property. There's a consequence. You are going to give her, you have to make the consequences, you have to make amends. You're going to give her yours, which are working beautifully. So you can imagine the tantrum, the what is like, no, there are consequences. That's what happens. Respect people's property. I mean, the lesson there was you need to respect people's property. And when you do something intentionally, yes, sometimes you make mistakes, but when you do something intentionally, there are consequences. The consequence in this case is you're going to lose your glasses, which were working. Your sister who had glasses which are already broken now has ones that are working. Yes, you wasn't happy, lots of crying, lots of whatever, like you're not going to die from crying. You're not going to die from these things. But it was a teaching moment, right? So it's more teaching, providing that psychologically safe environment where they can fail, where they can feel the pain, because that's the only way they can be resilient. Forever, making sure when they fall, like when they're young, I'll let them fall, but it's a step. Now when I get to the edge, I stop. It's better that way than for them to learn when it's a bigger level and then you break something that can be fixed. So it's teaching them in the small place, the small things, there are lessons to be learned. So yes, there are consequences. It's not like they're just like, oh no, you should not suffer pain. No, they need to suffer pain. Otherwise, how do they learn? They need to learn how to fail. So that the only way you learn to pick yourself up after failure is if you fail. If you're always passing, you will never learn what to do when you fail. And it's better for them to learn when they are young because the implications are less severe than for them. Like right now, every child will steal something. I mean, I've stolen sugar or I stole something. It's better for me to learn the consequences of stealing now than when I'm an 18-year-old who then end up in jail.
Well said. Well said. Okay.
And when I translate that into the workplace, because I know my thing is just around like it's the same process where you'd be like, as a team, you need to learn to find your path. You need to learn as a leader. You need to learn to create an environment where you foster curiosity, you value progress, and not be like, oh, this comma is not in the right place. And then people are afraid to try because if they try, they might make mistakes. And if they make mistakes, you come down on them. You need to realize that perfection is not the goal, but we need to bring our best selves to the party.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Geez, I've been talking for 50 minutes. Can you believe that?
It's amazing. Yeah, you have lots of toolkits that, you have lots of tools in your toolkit that when we speak, I always like to dig deep to get some of those well-refined assets that I can apply also in my own context. Because obviously I have seen that you are a systems thinker, and I like that. I really appreciate
it. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to share. without my niece saying, "Oh my God, you're preaching again."
Okay. All right. So, I guess now we can look at leadership. So, you know, some people are of the opinion that we are in a distinct period right now. Leadership, even as a team, leadership as a business, leadership as an individual. So the demand for leadership has gotten to a new dimension now. This afternoon, I was talking with Alan, my academic counselor in school, who is now in charge of, you know, some aspects of the school. You know, we were talking and we were discussing the topic of galamsey. I don't know if you've heard about galamsey. Galamsey is illegal mining in Ghana.
I think we've got a different name for it. What do we call it? Well, the proper name is artisanal mining. I think we call it makorokoza. Yeah, that's what we call it. We have that here as well, and also back home.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. We were talking about it, and so we were like, if the young people can create something that makes it difficult for everyone who can easily be lured into joining in, those forms of activities, it's time for young people to start, thinking of leading in the conversation and providing solutions that could be an alternative, or creating things that would make it difficult for those who feel like they don't have any hope to not default into the galamsey thing. So I said that to say, when you think about the state of our industry today, how do you teach people how to lead, and lead in a way that they carry the rest of their dependence or whatever the context might be along, because sometimes the need to move fast means that we don't have all the bandwidth to ensure that everybody is moving along at the same pace. So what have you seen that is working in terms of organizational or team leadership?
As you were talking, and just talking about, the young people, I know I'm going to digress a bit. It just came to mind, one of my favorite songs is by John Mayer, and it talks about waiting for the world to change. Where like one day our generation is going to lead the population. And so we're always waiting for that time when we are called into, but the time for us to do something is when it's now. It's not to wait for when someone gives us that mantle and to say, now, God, you can change, you can lead. Whether I think in corporate world, we talk of managing up, for example, as opposed to like you can be a leader within your own space if you can influence. So really, as young people, I think my message just to young people is like there's so much that we can do just to change and to lead to lead change within our own spaces and within things that we obviously the resources that we have. But to answer your question, to say that how can we as young people leading with I'm not that young anymore. I need to remember that. How can young people lead? I think for me the biggest thing is to lead with authenticity and empathy. Because sometimes we want to move and want everybody to move and to be at the same level of understanding and thinking as we are. But I think I talked about this, just taking a moment to pause and understanding where you are, understanding what are and how do I work, because I understand the rules of the game and what you understand within then where you focus your attention, where you can actually move the needle. Because if the rules of the game do not allow you to, and you don't have control, you're not going to go far. So you need to find a space where you can say, this is a space and this is, and understand your capabilities and what you can do to change that space. And really, people resonate with authenticity, people resonate with someone who is sincere and with empathy, and for that to happen, if you empathize, you also get to understand where you are. I mean, I think us in the development space, we do not want to leave anyone behind, but it's also we need to understand what is the problem that we're trying to solve for. Because once we understand what problem we're trying to solve for and what the causes of that problem are, better way to be able to focus and move the conversation. I don't think there's anything wrong in moving fast and moving with understanding. Once you understand what the problem is and the root cause, yes, not everyone is going to move at the same pace as you, and that's okay. It's also okay to say, you know what, they're not all going to be in the same space, but because you've got that vision, you understand where you're going and you understand the impact that it's going to have, and you believe in that, and you're leading authentically, and you're leading with empathy. Like we talked about, progress takes time. A change in understanding. I think even when you do in was it marketing, where they tell you that they're the first adopters, then they're the second come after
laggards.
The laggards, and follow after everybody else's. Now they know, okay, everybody else is tested, so there will always be that. So you just need to identify which crowd are you going for, and once you have mapped that out, just go for it. I think that's the one thing I'll just say to young people. It's okay, you're not going to save everybody, but you're going to save some, and you're going to make some difference. Unless you're trying to get world peace, which is well, a different story.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Is there any special news that you may want to share with us, or something that you want people to tap into? Any tool that you've created you want to sell to our audience that they can use to uplift and improve their lives?
No, let me say not the answer. The one parting shot really is just to say to, and I think anyone, whether or not you're a parent or within the professional world as well, is, it's quite important to take, and this also applies to you too, Tom-Chris, the importance of rest.
Yes.
And just reflection and appreciating your community. And I think earlier, I shared, like, you've got quite a very supportive community, and just the importance of that community really came through. And you've built really, which is really a testament to who you are. And also, I think the one thing also that I've learned, as a parent or within the workspace, is learning to ask for help is a strength. It's not a weakness, because you need your community the same way for you to achieve this, Chris. You needed your community around you. You needed your team, and each of one of those played a role. And there was delegation was key. You got to delegate. You couldn't have done all this by yourself. But when you delegated, you had a team, you had your community around rallying behind you, rallying behind your vision. You managed to get this done, and that is true even in one's personal life. Even as a parent, I need to have a community, because I can't be everywhere. I can't be at every engagement with my kids. but the community around me can support me. I can't be picking up my kids all the time. Sometimes I have to be working, but the community around me helps. At work, I can't be all the time. Sometimes I need to make sure that I go to my son's game, but my team comes in and helps me. So really just understanding and saying it's okay to ask for help. It is a strength. It doesn't mean you're weak, because sometimes you cannot do everything at once. And also just, I think we need to give ourselves some grace. Just as we say in children, they just don't grow in one go. That growth takes time. You get to see over time. So does that also happen with us? And I think my parting shot is we need to give ourselves time to grow into who we are becoming. Even as we lead, we need to give ourselves that time, because we learn from others as much as they learn from us. And that's my parting shot.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well received. Very well received. Thank you so very much. Your wisdom, your inspiration, and the tools that you shared with us, they are well received and will be applied diligently as well.
All right. Well, thank you, and thank you all, and all the best. And I'm sure I think your next speakers here, but all the best with the rest of the campaign.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, and goodbye to your audience.
Could you? We didn't transition.
What? Oh, I'm still here.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Let me transition.
I just past my time. I'm like, I can go on and on. I'm keep talking.
Let me transition, then you can sort of say bye-bye to us. Hi, Romeo.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Good, good. I'm still trying to figure out this. Let me try and turn this camera on.
Wonderful.
How are you?
Better than before and happier.
How has the process been going?
We had to manage a lot of moving parts, like sometime on day 2, I think ECG light went off. ECG is our electricity supplier.
Yes.
Thankfully, the UPS kicked in, and we had to just run and put on the standby generator. And then the building developed fault with the electricity wiring. Not major fault anyway. The sockets were messing around. So we realized that some switch in the control board might have developed a fault. So we called the electrician. He came, he fixed it. In the meantime, we were streaming with one of the laptops and Zoom. So all the same, our backups played key roles.
Good.
Yeah. The only other ones that made me almost after you know how you go to Cloud9 and then you drop with force. Maybe when a speaker is delaying to jump on, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to delay. But it was all good. It was all good.
Good. And how are you keeping up? Because you've been at this for what, 3 days? Back to back?
4 days plus today. I knew my body would go through something, so I had been exercising before the event. I did some very intense routine that played key roles. In the morning, I felt sleep like a cloak over my eyes, but thankfully I had 1 hour rest. So when I came back, I was feeling more light and I could talk a bit freer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I see we're at what, 104?
Yep.
Is that 104?
104.42. Yeah.
Yes. And you're trying to get to what, 100 and...
Yeah, the original intent was 109, but I don't know. Richard just joined now. If he's up for it, I may have to ask you to come after him because I want you to wrap it up for us.
That's fine.
Okay.
I was prepared to do that. So
yeah.
So if he's on, I can drop off and then I will rejoin. Just text me when you're ready.
Yes. Let me be sure that he's ready. Hello, Richard.
Grace, how are you? Just confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, let me drop off so you can continue, Richard, and see you in a bit.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you. You were late, Richard. You were late.
Good evening. I've been around for the past 8 minutes. So your other speaker leaving, signing off.
Yeah.
I was just hanging in there.
Yeah, I usually would like the speakers to be on 15 minutes so that, to go like this instead of like this.
So again, I'm finding it difficult to hear you. Could you maybe help me out a little bit?
All right, let's go because I would have to get all those details you've been preparing for me. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, understood.
All right. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Chris, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to do this. My name is Richard Joseph. I'm a business designer in practice and also a journalist also in practice. Run the agency called Africa Discourse Channel and consult for a couple of clients around the digital economy space and the creative economy. So in a nutshell, I love to do work that ensure that clients are happy and create impact.
Wonderful. Okay, so our topic as chosen was the creative economy, Africa's economic underdog. Wonderful.
Right.
So I know we've met before, but I wasn't so sure if that was before you joined the creative economy or afterwards. So let me just assume that it was before you joined, and I'll go back as I normally do, in understanding how did this passion and work and career merge into becoming something that you seem to enjoy today.
Oh, so I'll say, I've been within the creative economy at heart since I was young. I used to do a couple of things around theater, arts, drama, directing technically behind the scene, just ensuring things were working, especially for some theater art brand. I've had the opportunity to work with Village Man Production, amongst others. And we've done quite enormous plays especially African plays that tell stories about African and how we ought to realign our thinking. So, and also I'm a designer. So, the creative economy sits at the center and core of my core. In the past, 12, 18 years. I don't have a background in tech, however. I think that's how we connected. I think, if I remember correctly, it was the first AfriLabs gathering in Alliance Française, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, say, 2016 or 2017, thereabout.
Right.
So technically, I transitioned into creative economy. I've always been in the creative economy. I've always loved the arts. I've always loved everything around that. And it's something I hold a firm belief in, that everything at the fabric of our existence was built around the creative economy. And basically, I just still try as much as possible within everything I do to still emulate that and try to work around that. From now, the creators economy, and trying to put contents that educate Africans across the market industries, and how that's shaping up and how that's building Africa's progress.
Wonderful. So what do you do exactly?
So what?
What do you do? I know you say you do business operations. If I was a client looking to get value from you, what value would I say if I meet Richard? Everything is solved.
Oh, so I help clients with design strategies that help them, transition into businesses or get into the African market. That's what I do at the core right now, away from being in the multimedia space where I still act as a journalist and try to document African stories that are shaping the future of Africa and creating impact.
So an ideal client would be somebody looking to, say, set up shop in Ghana or any African country at all?
Yeah, any African country at all, primarily. In the past 5 years, I've worked across West Africa and some part of East Africa. But technically, a client would be someone who's looking at implementing a project in an African state, just help with business operations, modalities. We understand the market. Personally, I understand the markets and try to ensure that they get easy way into the market with all the market dynamics and the likes. I think technically, I want to stay away from the conversation around my job and just focus a little bit more on the creative economy, because that's what I'm going to talk about, and that's something that I think that we ought to really look into.
All right, go for it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, go for it. Let me know what you think.
Oh, right. So speaking about the creative economy, like I was saying earlier, the creative economy, I think, in my own estimation, and many of the audience might agree with this or disagree, sit at the center, at the fabric of everything that we do today, right? And the creative economy is not just maybe entertainment or creative arts, people singing and doing music, right? The entire foundation of existence were written under the guise of the creative economy. So history, as we have it, is what is taught to us today. So we only know what happened in the past because we have them documented, and all of those were an act of that was enacted through the creative economy. So I believe that as we are as Africans, we are sitting on one of the most powerful economic engines available to us, and we are treating it like a hobby. We don't really see it as a critical infrastructure that could set up a developmental path and growth processes across different African nations. I could give examples, right? For instance, in the European market, right, almost everything I'd say is taught through. It's like a process is designed, right, through to implementation and execution, from their health, lifestyle, movement, how things are shaping up, buildings, architecture, and all of those. They're all taught through. They're all designed. It's planned, right? So we see a bit how the creative economy takes effect in the infrastructural setup of not just developing nations or already developed nations, but also the lifestyle, how they live, what they do, and how they operate. Everything is taught through from end to end. I think that we don't really utilize the power of the creative economy in our work as government or governance, right, in terms of policy making and the likes, not to even speak to the creative economy in how it shapes up our lifestyles as humans, as people, as African descent. And if you think about it, technically, the entire civilization, the entire world were built off the back of Africa's culture and cultural, I'd say, what's the word to use? Cultural dominance, right? If with slave trade, right, they came in here, they took our artifacts, our gold and everything and took them away, right? The museum in Paris, the museum in England holds most artifacts from Africa than it has artifacts of their own, right? Why is that? There's a lot of things that we are not really tapping into creatively or technically within the African narrative that we could have been tapping into that would have given us some cultural dominance and dominance across the world, right, within that sector as a whole. we pour, I mean, I'm now talking about African government, we pour billions into attracting rather foreign direct investment from manufacturers and offering some weird tax incentive to multinational corporations to come set up shop here. Meanwhile, they technically export everything out of here. Then the value addition is not done here. They take out all the raw materials, everything from talent to now the art and everything, and they refine it over there and sell it back to us. I think we should be doing more when it comes to the creative economy, from how we think about everything we do to even executing and ensuring that we are able to add much more value on the internet in every country, in every nation, right? So that we can have that positioning that Africa shouldn't be seen at the back burner when it comes to defining the future of. We should be designing that future. We should not be trying which we've done in the past couple of years.
Interesting. That's a lot to unpack.
Say that again?
That's a lot to think about.
I mean, there's a whole lot I could actually speak about in terms. It's still in reflection of this creative economy thing, and I want to ensure that everybody understands that it's not just art or entertainment that is creative economy, right? The process of our thinking is all creative work. When people complain that AI is going to replace humans, I kind of get scared that we don't understand the value we hold as a people.
Okay, so.
Because the ability to emote is creativity in its sense, right? But yeah, I'll leave you to, if you have any direct questions you want to ask around that. I'm happy to. We're happy to have a chat around.
Yeah,
that.
let's stay on the creative economy. It will make for a more. Let's stay on the creative economy angle. It will make for a more streamlined conversation because you've just said a lot of things that I wanted to think about some of them to be able to generate a question for you, unless you have are there specific things you want to highlight? Because I want to know how constructive we can use the time left.
Okay, so I think we can. Give me a second, please. So yeah, there are a couple of things I think we can of course highlight, right?
Number one.
And one would be government policies around the creative economy, the creative sector, right? I could share data around that as well. I could also give examples of existing creative hub that has implemented creative strategy around the creative economy that is actually improved not only the lifestyle and well-being of the people, but also added enormous margins to the GDP, the gross domestic output of the country's economy, right? And also look at maybe models across different continents, right? And what Africa is doing wrong in terms of exporting its raw creative assets, rather than building value around those creative assets on the continent.
Okay, so let's go with we'll do government policy last. Let's do models first. Models first. What Africa is doing wrong, I think is more of a rhetoric now. It's been over rehashed. So let's look at the models and then you can share any priority information you have about best practice. Then we talk about government and we begin dialing it down from there. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You're saying something?
No, go ahead with the models.
Right. So let me take this off from the standpoint of giving some facts or data to back whatever I'm saying, right? Currently, as I said, Africa amounts for only about 2.9% of global creative commodities or creative exports, right? Which represents, about 50 billion USD, right, which is less than 1% of the entire African GDP put together. I'm saying the entire African GDP put together. But question is, we have 1.4 billion people. We have extraordinary cultural diversity, right? And we are only representing less than 3% of the global creative economy. There must be something foundational wrong, right? And everything most often than not built on government policies. But at the end of the day, it impacts if things would scale or things would be dampened, right? I think Africa is currently, if I'm not mistaken, there is an approximation that we are projected to get to about 10% of global exports of creative goods. However, these are just talks, right? In terms of execution, we don't know what that will look like. What is the government doing wrong, right? Infrastructures, okay, that protects creative assets. I think maybe we begin to see some conversation happen where, from different African nations, we are seeing repatriation of, Ghana had this slave 400-year return thing, just to celebrate that African diversity or that Ghanaian culture coming back home of, slave trade and the likes. We've seen other African nations try to get back their artifacts that were taken away from them some years ago, right? However, we are seeing some progress. Things are beginning to shape up, but I think we need to take a much more stronger stance when it comes to protecting our creative assets. I don't understand why we build songs in Africa, we have creative artists in Africa, but the songs are the IPs for the songs they're not hosted by Africans, they are hosted in a Western country, right? Or Sony Music, the labels and everything. What protects the copyrights, right? We don't have any. We do, to be actually precise, but we don't see the value of owning a copyright on the African continent rather than outside. So government ought to improve in terms of infrastructure, right? And it has to be a collective effort, not just one African state thing, because as much as we are over 54 different nations, we need to begin to make sure that the AU, the African Union, the regional blocks, ECOWAS and the likes, what have you now, they actually work and they build policies that protect the creative economy or the right of creative art or creative artists within the continent, right? That way we can scale up. We would see rather improvements around the creative economy. So on the infrastructure side, yes, policy also a very big thing. I spoke about that already. We need to begin to build policies that are not just copy and paste, policies that are actually built for the African people, that protects the African people and ensure that it maximizes profit for African people, right? We see that begin to happen. Just depend on the West, depend on Europe for everything. And at the end of the day, it's just reported. One other thing that would be great to see in the African market in terms of what governments could do is to see government invest rightfully and purposefully in the creative sector, right? It is weird, the investments, I'm not saying those are bad investments anyways, they're good. But most of the investment that comes into Africa or that our governments in African nations focuses on, I'd say majorly around maybe connecting cities, a road, maybe a few infrastructure investments here and there, but investment in the infrastructure that builds that diversity where you get real raw talent, real assets to be able to build on, I think, within the creative economy is missing. And we need to begin to see like massive investment in that. Imagine having a Disney African studio, which is run by an African organization full-time or maybe run by an African state. We are seeing more European agencies now or film houses now come to shop in Africa. Why is that? In Nigeria alone, there's not contribute. I mean, they produce more movies than produce. I mean, maybe if there's a vast comparison with Bollywood, but across the world, Nollywood comes second when it comes to production of movies. I mean, content, right? So we have a lot of things happening within the creative sector in Africa, but we don't have a lot of investment around that. For a film producer rather to produce a film in Ghana, right? They require a lot because those hubs, those infrastructure already exist that supports their business, right? So you begin to see things of, I mean, talk about film rights, talk about locations, sets, and all of those things. It's difficult to have access to because we have not intentionally invested in that sector, right? So we need to see policy improve. We need to see investment done rightfully and thoughtfully in the creative sector. We need to also see that investment in infrastructure that protects the rights of the creative individuals in Africa are put in place. So I think I'll leave it there when it comes to government. And government, I'm not referring to just national government, I'm referring to the entire African Union as a bloc, referring to the different actors of the regional bloc. And we need to see these things begin to take effect at that level so that they can be impact, because every regional bloc or every African nation contributes to the AU, right? What is the AU doing with those contributions, and how are they ensuring that they're setting up the right system that not only protects, but increases our productivity within the sector, right? So I'll leave it at that when it comes to government. I think there are a couple more things to speak about when it comes to government, because we can talk about tourism, we can talk about this. Just speaking about tourism, let me sit on this a little bit, right? We don't have the technology dominance, right? That Western power from Germany to the US and now to China in terms of manufacturing. We don't have that, but we have something that could actually generate us a lot of revenue, and tourism is that sector, right? The entire industry is one. Why can't we prioritize what we are best at, what we are good at, what is also easy to us, right? I'm not saying doing the others are irrelevant. No, I'm saying that rather than trying to import systems, we don't have full autonomy. It's not fully autonomous to us, right? Rather than import those systems, why don't we focus on what we have full leverage over and try to build a value out of that and ensure that it contributes massively to the economy, massively to the growth of the African people. Staying on the creators economy. If you look at the new wave of creators we have across the continent, I see a trend where businesses abroad comes into Africa, hires or pay African creators to create content for their brand. Why is that? There's something fundamentally rather not seen, right? We don't see a lot of these. We are not able to, as African brands, go get a lot of foreign influencers to amplify our product. But the foreign brand comes in here because what we have over 1.4 billion people. That's a lot of market. That's a market size there. Everybody wants to tap into that market size. It's projected that Africa will increase to over 3 billion people in the next 10 years. That's a market share that we are not tapping into, and the creative economy sits at the center core of that. If we are able to tap into that, there's a lot we can actually unlock in terms of contributing not just to the better life or betterment of the life of the African people, but I think general betterment of African economy across board, right? So that being said, I would switch over to maybe case studies, right? And just to give like instances where this has worked elsewhere, and not because we have to copy what they've done and bring it to Africa, no, because we have to look within ourselves and see what is valuable to us, what mostly comes so easy to us, and begin to work around that. So I'm going to use the Netherlands because that's one of the examples I've experienced. I've seen it work in real life. In the Netherlands, right, technically design powers both lifestyle and economic standards in the Netherlands, right? It is a pure masterclass when it comes to how design is shaping the future of work, right? Netherlands live the embed. Everything done in the Netherlands, everything done in the Dutch state, right? It ought to first be designed, right, before implemented, right? So as it stands, culture and media actually contributes to 3.7% of the Dutch economy. So culture and media, this is what is 5 billion euros, if I'm not mistaken. This is according to statistics from Netherlands in 2015, right? Netherlands only have 17 million people. That is, I think, about half the population of Ghana as it stands, right? Contributing 3.7% to its GDP. Now, back to how design powers the lifestyle of people and individuals in the Netherlands, right? One of the things I learned, I was in the Netherlands in 2021, and one of the things I realized is everything is intentionally done and designed so, right, to help the people. So you see, they have much more respect for cyclists, right, and the use and people who actually walk than cars. I'm saying that in a sense. So what it is there's a heavy tax on people who own vehicles, right? And it is intentionally done to reduce the amount of vehicles in the state and ensure that people have productive lifestyle where they are actually always working out, either by cycling or walking to work. All right. Basically, the lifestyle of the people of Netherlands, you either find them cycling majority of the times or taking walks to short walks. So it increases your lifespan. Obviously, it's a known fact that exercise is important for all persons, right? The more you exercise, the more you stay active, or the more you're able to stay active, it actually increases your lifespan, improves rather your quality of life, right? So that's one. When it comes to urban planning, right, it's another big thing. Everything, how the houses are designed also take into consideration the lifestyle, the health, and the health practices of the people, right? So you will rarely find, say, like we have, they have accessibility and stuff, but you rarely find extreme comforts in terms of every building ought to have. They have those, right? But they almost always empower or ask people to, or they intentionally design the system such that people only use the thing we see as comfort in that Western phase or Western part of the world, right, as only when it's there in extremely important, right? I'm talking about urban planning. So how this arranged, how everything is done. Netherlands has what? They are below sea level. They contribute to over they're the second largest exporters of foodstuffs when it comes to meat and some tomatoes and the likes, right? That's intentionally designed so. Although they are 24 feet below sea level, right? Farming starts because it's creatively engineered that they ought to be so. Everything it's done intentionally to increase the livelihood of the people, contribute towards their life and health standards, and ensure that they get, I don't know what it's called in the health industry or the health space, but increase the lifespan, I think, would basically put that in perspective, right? And one of the things I also found is they have this thing they call the designing for good, right? So they design foods, they design, all right, sure, thank you. They design foods, they design how is a known thing. They contribute over 3% of GDP, to South Korea's GDP. One band. That tells you that a lot could be unlocked if we only looked right and put in the proper systems within the creative economy, right, to ensure that we build system that works, that protects and expedites our profitability within that sector.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard. We are drawing closer and closer to the end of Global Student Entrepreneurship Week 2025, which is the Guinness World Record attempt 2. And right now, we're going to transit to UK. Mr. Fs.
Say that again. I lost you for a bit.
Oh, I was saying that we are transiting to UK, to Romeo in UK. So you can sign off when you want to.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Fs.
How are you doing, sir? Again.
I am about to go hit my bed, take shower, and it's been quite a time.
Well needed. Have you hit the record now?
Oh yes, I have actually with what I'm seeing here with 5 hours. So let's see how much you can do with your session, maybe an hour and a half.
That's amazing.
Okay, so I'm just gonna off this one because it's just duplication of all we have here.
Okay, cool.
You're back to the UK.
Yes, I arrived last night. My flight was delayed, so I got in pretty late. So yeah, been just it's a Saturday here. Back to the cold, rain, UK weather. After 3 weeks away in sunny Accra. So yeah,
right.
Not happy. I'm crying in my heart, but yes.
Well, it's all well.
Yes, exactly. I'll be back soon. So that's the condition, I guess.
Okay, wonderful. So our topic, I know, is centered around board governance, but
yeah, I can also be very flexible, you know that, and
yeah,
and have also a conversation much wider. So yeah, let's just
yeah, I would love to go, maximally into your career journey, and then we'll come and use the board governance to wrap it up, because I'll also like to get some inspiration and ideas on how to make my own board better. Of course, I believe some people,
okay.
Yeah, they will get value from this. All right.
Cool, no problem.
Yeah, so your profile is quite extensive and it's all over the place online. So I wouldn't ask questions that are already there. We know you started your first venture at 16-year-old. I just wanted to begin by saying thank you again for joining us on this mission. For someone who has seen the world from different dimensions. Now, looking back, would you say you would have ended where you are now if you made different choices? Because sometimes you wonder, if you did it this way, what would it have been? So if you plot that graph now, what might it look like?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, before I start, I must say, man, I am super proud of the achievement that you have made. I remember meeting you back in 2014, 15, at this conference I did at a set university, and you told us about this phenomenal idea you have, and just watching you over the years, see it unfold and you bringing it to life, it has just been amazing to watch. So well done on that. I feel like a big brother that's just, very, very proud of his younger brother.
Thank you.
Who seems to have just, identify a dream and just kind of gone with it. I'm just telling everyone I see, this guy is someone I met several years ago and he is smashing it. So,
thank you.
Yeah, people will tell you I talk about you a lot. But coming back to the question, sometimes I do, sit back and wonder whether in my life if I'd made different choices, what outcome could be. I used to work. I was very involved politically in my younger age. I became the youngest president of a youth arm of the political youth arm in Jamaica, and was very involved politically. Worked for prime ministers and senators and members of parliament, etc. Currently, quite a number of the members who are in the cabinet in Jamaica are my really, really good friends. The current prime minister in Jamaica and I, we kind of grew up in politics together. So sometimes I wondered whether or not, if I had made the decision to stay in Jamaica, and not travel to the UK to study, whether or not my path would have been completely different. So yeah, I think about that sometimes. However, I don't think that I regret the decision that I made, because honestly, I have grown a lot. I've also achieved a lot based on the decision that I took back in 2005 when I came to the UK to study. I've learned a lot, and from that learning and that growth, I've contributed a lot to Jamaica in my own way. So yeah, I think that sometimes I wonder whether or not I would end up in politics, and I know I'd probably be in the cabinet or be a senator and living that life. But I think that because of the work that I do and have done over the past years since I moved to the UK, the impact that I've had has been much, much wider. I mean, just think about the fact that if I did not make that decision, I would not have been able to be on this forum right now, because I wouldn't have met you, and we would not have gone down the journey and met so many other great, wonderful people from that event years ago. That I think I made an impact on their lives.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a really wonderful assessment to make. For young men, you are vitally involved in the lives of several young men. So I've had this conversation earlier today. I was asking the gentleman what are the questions that people ask him the most, and he mentioned some about finances, growing a business, and I was wondering to myself, if you take that same question to a different context, what might it be? So what are the concerns that people usually bring to you on a daily?
So yeah, I have a group of young people that I mentor. They're global. I'd probably say I probably have about 30, 35 right now from all over the world. Most of the times, I think the question that comes up the most, the conversations we have the most are usually around financing. So that could be whether or not it's starting up a business. It could be my career and how should I manage my money better so that I can actually get more out of it. I don't consider myself a guru. I'm still learning how to manage money quite well, but over the years I've learned a number of valuable lessons from mistakes that I've made. And so I share a lot of that with them. It's usually around young people who just make sure they can take care of themselves. Two, that they can plan for the future. Could be their children, whether or not they want to have children or not, but also plan towards retirement, right? Or when they get much older, making sure that they have the money that they need in order to take care of themselves. So that's one of the major concerns and conversations that I have a lot with the young people that I mentor. Another big conversation that is coming up a lot these days is around relationships. And so that could be mainly, relationships with, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wives kind of situations, because it's different now maintaining a relationship than when our parents were growing up.
Yes.
Right? There is so much distraction these days, especially on social media. And the fact is that relationships take work, whether or not it's an intimate relationship or just a social relationship, with maintaining friendships. It does take work. It's not something that is just organic. It seemed organic to like our parents, like my parents, it seemed very organic. And I think that's because they had no choice but to spend a lot of time doing things together, because they didn't have as many distractions as young people have nowadays in terms of social media, all of that kind of stuff. So they were able to spend time just sitting and chatting and cooking and doing all of that kind of stuff. So those are some of the conversations that I'm having with the young people that may. More generally, whenever I meet young people and they either know who I am or they just see me as someone that's a little bit older and possibly a little bit wiser, these are the kind of conversations that they tend to, or questions that they need to pose to them. They tend to pose to me.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's go a bit into both subjects. The subject of money, I've talked about, although I scratched some surface of it with some of the speakers, but I really want to go deeper in it, in that area with you, because you have made investments, like you said, that you regret. Now you have excellent tools and rule book that you use to weigh anything investment that comes to you. So I'm curious to understand, if you had to weigh any investment right now, where do you start? What do you look at? And also, when you, so investment can be also in people, not just in asset. Yeah. So what makes you give your money away? And
So two things. One is when I look to invest, and as you say, that investment, first and foremost, talk about investing for a financial return, right?
Right.
And as I said before, I don't think that I'm not a guru where this is concerned. These are just some suggestions based on lessons that I've learned. And even before we get to that, I've always thought that this is something that managing money should be like one of those lessons that you learn in university or even at primary school, because it is what makes or break you in the right. You could make as much money as possible, and if you don't know how to manage it,
you wouldn't mean anything.
It completely. And I've always wondered, why is it that in schools we are not taught about managing money and simple things like investments? Because you go to university, you're being taught to come out and get a great job, but no one teaches you how to manage that salary when you leave university. And if we even had a course that teaches us how to manage money, a lot of us would be a lot more financially responsible and financially independent than we are now. Coming back to the point, though, in terms of investments. So one of the things for me is that I tend not to invest in things that I don't understand. And that's one lesson that I learned years ago when I got involved in foreign currency trading. And I didn't understand it. I just saw that it was giving super great returns. And so I invested a lot of money in it, and I ended up losing quite a lot of money from that as well. So my first rule of thumb is I don't invest in things I don't understand. And sometimes I will spend time to research and understand it. So for example, right now I'm learning about cryptocurrency because I think it's something that I'd like to get involved in, but I won't make any significant investments in it until I understand it to a certain extent. The other thing is, if I'm investing in a startup for argument's sake, which is something that I've done in the past, I also look to invest in the founders or the people of that startup, because I'm looking for individuals with the kind of attitude. So I'm an entrepreneur. I know what it takes to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy. It's like 20 carts up a hill by yourself. So it's not easy, and you have to have the right kind of attitude to be an entrepreneur. So I look for individuals who, if they fail at that particular business, they would, probably be in the trenches for a few days, which is acceptable, but they're not going to just throw in the towel and give up completely. They will then say, okay, that didn't work. Let me go down to the market and see if I can buy some onions and start selling those, right? That's the kind of attitude that I look for in entrepreneurs that I invest in my businesses, because employing people is also an investment. Right. So you look for individuals I look for individuals who uses their initiatives a lot. So anyone, before they start with me, we send them an assessment, right? And this assessment sometimes is not completely related to the role that they're doing. It could, some parts of it is related to the role because we want to see their skills, but some parts of it are completely unrelated because we want to see their critical thinking skills, right, and if they're willing to use their initiatives and how far they're willing to go to get the information that they need in order to complete the task. So we look for people who think outside of the box, people who will use their initiatives. And I want people on the team who don't just come up with problems, but will tell you, this is the problem and here are some suggested solutions to fix the problem. Not people who, I don't micromanage people, so I don't necessarily need to know the granularity of it. I just need to know the house was burning, so I put it out and the fire's no more. I don't need to know, well, we had to go buy a hose and then we had to dig a borehole to get water and then we had to pump it and all of that. Like, no, the house was burning and the fire is out and all is good. I'm good where that is concerned. If I need to know the details, then I'll ask more. So in terms of investments, I would say those are some of the things that I look for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so relationship is number 2, and relationship obviously for founders and early career professionals. At that period when you are choosing to build a house, sometimes it can be scary So how have you advised individuals that are starting relationships to organize it in a way that they can create something that is anchored on value?
That is a hard one, and I'm pretty sure you can relate. Like, as an entrepreneur, it is finding a partner that understands the drive that you have in your belly for the dream you have to succeed is one of the most important things you can do as a founder or as a partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or as an entrepreneur, because you're going to need a partner who will understand that you are not going to be available at certain times because you have to spend the time working on the business or working in the business. You have to find a partner who will understand that sometimes you're not going to be able to go out on that fancy date because you need that money to buy goods or to pay the staff, right?
All right.
You're going to need a partner who is going to be there to support you. Like when you're up working on those late nights, trying to get certain things done, the partner is that person that will go fried to, if they know that, like me, know that fried plantain and eggs are your favorite food in the world, they'll just go fry some plantain with eggs and a cup of Milo, sweetened with condensed milk, and just put it on the desk next to you because they know that will kind of cheer you up. So every entrepreneur who I know who have been successful have a partner that understands them to that extent. I remember one of my mentors saying to me that as an entrepreneur, you have to price your time. And so instead of spending the time cleaning the house, you spend 3 or 4 hours cleaning the house and your time is valued at, I don't know, $200, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are actually spending about $1,000 when you could actually get someone to come and clean your house for $100. So those are some of the trade-offs that you have to make. Relationships with entrepreneurs can be very difficult because, especially if the entrepreneur is really hungry to change the world, because basically that's what entrepreneurs do in terms of just solving problems, to change the world. That becomes like the pivotal driving point for them. So my advice to entrepreneurs and to business owners is that you and it's funny enough, I had this conversation with someone a few weeks ago when I was in Accra, he's also thinking about on his startup journey. And, he just met this really nice girl, and, he's thinking that, they're dating for almost 2 years now, that, this person could actually be the one that he ends up getting married to. And I had to say to him, I'm like, look, you're going to have the drive to want to keep working, but you also have to understand that there's another human being in the picture. So you have to plan the time in your schedule, right? And it might sound very unromantic and it might sound very draconian, but the other person does know that you are planning this in your calendar. So if, for example, I have in my calendar, 3 or 4 touch points every day, send a text message, do a quick phone call, or something like that, just to check in, right? You plan a monthly date out together or something like that. You take the Sunday off or the Sunday afternoon off, and you make sure you spend time with that individual, because you also have another individual in the picture that you also have to make sure that their needs are being met, and it's not just your needs that are being met. You can't be super selfish. But, as I said before, you're definitely going to need someone who understands that you are on a quest, and they're there to also support you on that journey.
Wow. This is a masterclass already. Okay. So
it's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough being an entrepreneur and being in a relationship. But most successful entrepreneurs that I have met and I've had conversations with, they will tell you that if it wasn't because of their partner's support, a lot of times they would not be able to achieve what they have achieved.
Yeah, facts. Okay.
Yeah.
So some time ago, some guy in Nigeria, he's the CEO of a fast-rising tech startup. He jumped from his building and killed himself. And quite frankly, he's not the only one that has committed suicide, abruptly like that. Last week, OpenAI released a document about 1 million people talk to their AI model about taking their life every week. And when you canvas the information of what people talk about, you see finance, relationship is still among the central focus of concern. So how does a man, and again, many young men are among, so those are the ones that are pressured the most. So how can a man take control of his mental health and, find that equilibrium?
Man, I'm telling you, I can speak to that very personal, because a few years ago, I suffered a brain aneurysm, right? And that is when a blood vessel actually burst in your brain. And the reason for that was you can suffer a brain aneurysm one of two ways. One is from a trauma. So in other words, you're in an accident or you fall or you get hurt or something like that. The other one is from stress and exhaustion. And that's what happened to me, right? And the stress and exhaustion was from multiple fronts. But the main cause of it was because of the business, right? I left corporate and partnered with someone else to start a private equity firm. We grew the portfolio quite rapidly, from 0 to about 28 companies that we had some form of investments in. But, and so, working on those businesses, but then also the returns that we were expecting just wasn't there. We took money from investors, we leveraged my partner's business. And so the pressure was really, really on. And I wasn't taking care of my mental health. I wasn't reading, I wasn't eating properly, wasn't exercising, wasn't doing any of that. And I was worrying a lot about the whole situation. And it also, and at this point, it was also, I was dealing with a situation where one of my best friends was actually killed in my house here in London, right? By people who were racist at the time and didn't want Black people to be living in that particular community. So I had all of this thing that I was dealing with, and especially as men, and I can speak as Black men, you're always told to man up and to kind of deal with it. And I remember when I was having a conversation with another friend of mine about it, he said, when I told him that I felt I was spiraling down into depression, he basically said to me that, Black people don't have time for depression, right? So I should just try and deal with it and push through. But it ended up that, I suffered this brain aneurysm, and the doctors said to me that I was lucky to be alive because the amount of red blood cells they found in my spinal fluid, I should not be alive, but thank God I'm alive and I'm here right now. So dealing with your mental health is really very important, especially as an entrepreneur. And I've heard lots of stories of entrepreneurs who have taken money as investments in their startups and then starts going belly up. for many reasons. Lack of good management, not the right people, product fail, all kinds of situations. And when you are in a position where you have taken millions or even hundreds of dollars from an investor, and then you find yourself unable to deliver, that's a lot of pressure, especially if you're young, right? And so some people might just see that as the easiest way is just getting rid of themselves. And I know this can be triggering for a lot of people. So if anyone is listening to this and feel triggered, there are a number of organizations out there that you can reach out to get some help where this is concerned. But yes, I know, taking care of your mental health is very important. So for me right now, I cherish, and I learned this years ago, between 5:30 in the mornings when I wake up and 10 o'clock, that's my time. I don't take meetings before 10 o'clock unless it's extremely critical. And I kind of also, I put my diary into black, green, amber, red, okay? And it's only if it's a black meeting that I'm taking it. And any meeting that is categorized as black, meaning that's a revenue generating meeting. So it's a potential client who is a very hot lead, or it's a client that we already have that I need to continue the relationship with because they're paying the invoice, right? So unless you fall within that kind of black category, I'm not taking that meeting with you before 10 o'clock. Between 5:30 and 10, I wake up, I do my devotion, I go to the gym and work out, I do my meditation, I write in my gratitude journal, and then I get ready for the day. I don't even, I now check my WhatsApp because my partner and I, we have this thing where, we make sure we check in every morning. And so that's what I do. But once I do that, my phone is put down. The only time my phone is there is when I'm in the gym working out. I'm either listening to a podcast or listening to some other kind of meditation kind of thing. So that's what I do to make sure I take care of my mental health. And meditation really, really works. It's really helpful. Mindful meditation. I also make sure that my diet is on point, right? Mm-hmm. I have cut out sugar completely from my processed food and starches that I eat. And so, I'm seeing the results in my body and in my mental health. I also, use supplements as well. Make sure that I'm taking, really good natural supplements, like Irish moss and moringa and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's very important that that us as men and especially as entrepreneurs, that we're doing things to manage our mental health. And I can tell you, exercise is like kryptonite when it comes down to stress, right? No matter how simple it is, even just going for a 30 minutes walk every day, it does wonders to your mental health.
Wow, wonderful. Wonderful. So, obviously, apart from the relationship with your wife, there are key people in your journey that you want to keep, pouring in that relationship, but sometimes life can get too fast or too slow that it can be challenging. So how do you keep touch?
And the truth is that as you get older, your circle of friends will
smaller.
Get, much smaller, right? And so I'm not very good. I found out years ago that I was not very good at this, right? Really very poor at it. So I have some really, really good friends right now. Some of us are in a WhatsApp group. So there are 4 of us right now in a WhatsApp group. 5 of us that's in a WhatsApp group, and we're constantly in that group, just kind of bantering and gisting and chatting. Every now and again, we might have a video call, together. And these are people, some of them I've known since university days. And others I've known from I was much younger. So, these are lifelong friends so far. I have other friends who we speak once a week. So I have a friend that's in Washington, and I can tell you without a doubt, he's much better at this than I am. Every week, he will, on a weekend, we talk and we catch up and, just have a good conversation. And he is he's very, very senior in the U.S. Navy, and even when he's retired now, but even before he was retired and he was out at sea, he would still make sure that, even if it's by email or chat, we were still conversing. So you have to be intentional about maintaining these relationships. And don't feel bad. I'm telling you, do not feel bad if you have to just put reminders in your diaries, because we are all super busy. The world has become so super crazy these days. So don't feel bad if you have to put reminders in your diary to say, call Tom-Chris this day, or call Romeo this day, or whatever. Don't feel bad. I even do this with my kids. I make sure that I put reminders in my diary. We speak every day anyway, but I want to spend some quality time with them at least once a week, and I put in my diary when I need to call them to spend that quality time with them. So you have to be very, very intentional where that is concerned. And with technology nowadays, it's easy for you to be able to keep in touch, whether or not that's by WhatsApp, chatting, or video call, or voice call. I have friends who a really good friend of mine who lives here in London, and every now and again we just meet up for a coffee and we just kind of have a chat. So you have to be intentional where that is concerned.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Because relationship takes work.
Yes.
It's not hairy-fairy. You have to put in the work to maintain relationships.
Absolutely, yes, you are right. Okay, so now how do you choose what to focus on? I was reading some quotes from Elon Musk's biography, and one of the things that stood out to me is this concept of continuous deletion. You delete until you can no longer delete, and it's about focus. It's about going to focus, channeling your attention to the one that makes the boat move the fastest. So where do you know that this is what I should focus on? How do you decide those things?
Good question. I remember years ago, I went to a Tony Robbins event, and I think the one thing I came away with, or the main thing I came away with, was this quote, this thing that he kept saying was, energy flows where attention flows.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I take away from that is, if you are constantly focusing on things that are not going right, or that are going bad, that's where your energy will flow, right? And so you have to, again, using the word, be very intentional in terms of where is it do I want my energy to flow, and so that then helps to determine where do you focus. So and this works even if you're in a relationship. If you keep always talking about the negative or bad things that your partner keep doing or saying, or what they're not doing, then that is where your focus, the energy is going to be. And if the energy is there, you're going to keep in that space, and more of that is going to surface because you're going to constantly be seeing stuff like that. Any day you shift and start focusing on some of the things, no matter how small, that they do well, they're a great cook, or, they are a great provider or a great father, focus on some of those stuff. Then you will see a shift in terms of even some of the things that you think are negative start reducing, because your energy, your focus is now on that, and that's where your energy is going to go. In terms of business, I'm not gonna lie, for me it's kind of hard because I have this kind of bad trait that nobody does it as good as I can, and so I always have too much on my plate. But one of the things I've learned over the years is to delegate and to trust, right? So I delegate, and sometimes it means that I have to have a conversation with the person I delegate with in terms of, this is how I'm looking for it to be done, and this is what the result needs to look like. And sometimes I might need to go back with them a couple of times until they get it right. But it's almost like you're teaching a man to fish as opposed to giving him a fish every day. And so what I find is that after you've gone through that process, it becomes much easier on that person and on me as well, where that is concerned. So I when I create my list of things to do, I look at the things that I can actually delegate to people on my team, or I can outsource to other persons to get done, and really just kind of zone in and focus on those things that only I can do, right? And when I say only I can do, from an entrepreneur or a business owner, there are just certain things that only you can do. So, for example, right now we're going through the 5-year growth strategy for the business, and how do we repivot, and what we're going to niche down to. And I have to be leading the team on that, because as the founder, that vision is kind of in my head, and they're helping me. I can voice it out. They're helping me in terms of how to make that happen, and the research that goes beyond that, etc. On my team, I've developed a lot of expertise around governance, and now we're going into things like AI and data governance. And so I'm building the portfolio of assets that we will sell to clients where that is concerned. There's no one else on the team that I could delegate that to. So though that it becomes my focus. So for me, it's creating that list of things to do, delegating, and then just focusing on those things that will move the business forward. So it's, for me, one of my things is I need to focus a lot more on working on the business to move it forward, rather than working in the business. Right. So if there are tasks that are like working in the business, I delegate those. Anything that's working on the business to move it forward, that's where my focus is. And that's, I think that's how I kind of decide what I need to focus on.
Yeah, that will save a lot of trouble for every single founder that applies that principle with diligence.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
but I can tell you, Tom-Chris, that for a founder, it is not an easy thing to do, because remember, and I'm sure you can understand it, understand this as a founder, like, this is your baby, like, you want to cuddle it, and you want to kind of keep it close, to you, and you want to just make sure it's nurtured. So, letting go can be a little bit, can be difficult,
right,
at times for entrepreneurs.
Okay. So now you've built something that has unquestionable promise of scale. So now you are ready to start scaling. So the checklist do you have any checklist that you use to say, okay, now I'm sure that if we do X, Y, Z, then scale is unquestionable?
So for me, there are a few things that jump out to mind in terms of like scaling a business, and this is in no kind of no order really.
Yeah.
I think for me one of the key things in terms of scaling a business is the right team and leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I say leadership, it does not necessarily mean individuals,
Mm-hmm.
but leadership for me is in terms of what's the culture that I have in the organization. What are we trying to do in terms of or achieve in terms of a purpose and a mission. Those are very critical, and it's very important that you build that culture. And I know culture evolves, but as you grow, but if you're planning to scale the business, you have to have the culture is like the foundation that holds everything together. The leadership style, the values of the organization. How do you want the organization to be perceived? How do you want to show up in terms of things that you do? So that's one thing. Clarity around who decides what in terms of the business. So that's number one. The other one is you have to also make sure that you have the right systems and operational procedures in place in terms of scaling, because if you don't and you try to scale, things can fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure that what are the systems that we have in place. So think of it as the leadership as the foundation, and then the operating systems are, if you're building a house, you have the foundation, and you pour you dig it and you pour the concrete in it, and then you put up those steel rods and columns to kind of reinforce the building. I would say those are pretty much like your operationals, your operation and your operational tools and systems that you need to have in place. The other one is around the team. What do I have the right team in place in order for me to kind of scale the business? Because if you try to scale and have the right team in place, then that's going to be a challenge. And so, those are pretty much like, I would say, you're putting up some of the walls around the building. The other one is around, are we financially ready in terms of scaling? Do we have the what's our burn rate? Have the cash flow to be able to maintain that? Do we have are we pricing the products right?
Yeah.
Where that is concerned. And for me, that's kind of like, that needs to flow throughout the organization. And the other one is around, I would say, I mentioned earlier, the products, is the product really, really ready and market fit? Do we have that right? Have we priced it right? Do we have the right distribution channels, to reach the people that we need? And are we solving the right problems? And the other bit I would say, kind of covers everything, is do we have the right legal and governance structures in place to make sure that we are compliant and we're keeping the accountability that we need, the accountability within the organization, but also external to the organization, right? And so you're looking at things like, if you need a board, do we have that? But if you don't have a board, do we have the compliance mechanisms in place to make sure that we're complying with the regulation, the laws? We're looking at things like risk. Have we protected our intellectual property? All of our IP, all of that kind of stuff.
I guess
so those are some of the, in a kind of a nutshell, I think those kind of cover some broad areas that I think needs to be in place in order for an organization, a business to scale.
Yeah, I guess that opens the door to the growing relevance for modern corporate governance.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your thoughts on this?
So we kind of coined the phrase at Lumos, modern corporate governance, because we have been doing corporate governance work for a number of years. This is something that I love. I'm a chartered governance professional among other things, and I really love this space. But what I find is that corporate governance was designed way back in the 70s, I think, and so I should know that. But it's very archaic, the way how corporate governance work. And I don't think that way of doing corporate governance is fit for the modern way of how organizations are built and needs to be run these days. And so we coined the term modern corporate governance. And so we've been working with organizations around this. And for us, modern corporate governance is, yes, there are core principles around transparency and accountability and fairness and responsibility, but it's applied through a kind of contemporary lens, and there is not a lot of emphasis on purpose-led governance, right? And so for us, we believe that modern governance includes all of those, but the wrapper around all of that is purpose-led governance. And this is where profit is pursued, or the business is run to benefit people, planet, and profit, right? And so making sure that profit is not pursued, or it's pursued alongside valuing society and valuing the environment, and looking in terms of long-term resilience as well, right? The other bit around modern governance is taking in a much broader kind of stakeholder focus. So whereas in the past, corporate governance would just focus exclusively on shareholder value or shareholder return, modern governance includes all the stakeholders, employees, customers, supply chain, regulators, the wider community, and the planet. And boards now need to manage these relationships and the risks that affect these groups, and not just focus on like quarterly earnings as well, right? The other thing that's changing the way how governance is looked at is technology and data, right? Digital transformation is now forcing boards to take into consideration things like cybersecurity, data privacy, and AI ethics, right? And so modern governance is kind of taking in all of that kind of situation as well, right? So for us, that is kind of in a nutshell. The other thing around modern governance as well is how do you the composition of your board as well? Do you have the right people sitting on your board in order to help you to deliver the strategy as well? And then also that then comes down to the whole notion of the dynamics of around the board and how decisions are made. I could go on and on for a long period of time around modern governance, because it's something that I really like.
Okay, so we are coming to, obviously, I need to take into account that you have other schedules to maintain, and as much as I want
and
to...
you need to get some rest, sir.
Yes. So in summary, we are about to enter 2026, which in my thinking is a very important year. I knew from my private interpretation of the feelings I have when with the observations I make in the industry or in conversations, that 2025 was going to be one unique year, but I feel like 26 is going to be the spring off year, when a lot of exciting opportunities are explored, and businesses will do incredibly good work, and I really want to be I really want to be in a position to actualize some of those aspirations that I have in my head. And but looking to the year, what advice do you give to your leaders? What do you tell them maybe about strategy, operation? What do you tell them in general?
It's looking at 2026 to be a transformative year, because technology is on the rise. AI is getting smarter and smarter, transforming the way how we do things every single day. And so I would say that if any entrepreneur, any business owner isn't really kind of looking at the impact that AI will have on their business, that needs to be be top of their list right now, because no matter what industry you're in, within 5 years, there's going to be an impact. So whether or not you're in agriculture or you're in consulting, or even if you are in, graphic design or social media, it's going to have an impact. So that's definitely need to be on top of your list, where 2026 is concerned. So in terms of strategy, is as you look to plan your business, even if you feel you can't afford it right now, just start looking at what are some of the tools out there that are either already developed or in development that could impact my business or impact my customer base. Because if your customer base, if the people you sell to, if the way how they operate or the things they consume changes because of the impact of technology, then your business is going to be impacted. So that, I would say, need to be a very on the top of your agenda as a business owner or an entrepreneur, or even someone who is just starting out in terms of your 2026 strategy. The other one I'd say is don't try and think that you can do a startup or run your business on your own. It's much, much easier when you have a team or even a co-founder or a partner in the mix. I know that can be controversial, and you have to be careful in terms of finding the right person, but you will be able to scale and grow much faster if you do it together with a team rather than individually.
Okay, so at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be... Delight, are you ready? The screen is about to go. The screen is about to go, so don't let it...
You should have some confetti to just kind of fall all over the place.
Oh yes, we do.
Right?
We do. Actually, we do. We do. Okay, take your time on the screen and then let's do it very well.
because we could wrap up in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You will be 106 hours and 50 minutes. Oh my God! I'm so amazingly proud of achievement that you have done, and
thank you.
I'm so pleased that I'm actually here to kind of close this out. It feels like a loop,
yes,
with us, right?
Thank you.
It feels really, really good.
Thank
you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, the confetti, ladies and gentlemen, we did it! Hey! Bloody thing, man.
I know. You should fly it. Ah, yes.
It didn't take pictures. Hey!
Yeah, definitely. Let me take a screenshot right now as well, just to kind of make sure I have this for history.
That was good. Wow,
yes,
wow. Thank you.
Sure you'll sleep well tonight.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you everybody that
Recording
joined
stopped.
us. Everyone that joined us all over the world, thank you so very much from the heart of my heart. I just want to express our gratitude, our profound gratitude to every one of you. We've done hard work to get here, and it worked out. We did it. Let this be a memorial for everyone, every young person, wherever you might be, and you're wondering to yourself, can my dream come true? Can I do it? I failed multiple times over and over and over. Remember, the limits are meant to be broken. And yes, thank you so very much. And thank you again. Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Speak soon.
Yes, sir. Need to do the picture. Why did I buy two of this? I should have bought two.